concept is part of the first unit in the subject fundamentals of computers. In the morning we were discussing about, in the morning session we were discussing about the fundamental concepts related to input devices and all. Now we will be discussing about what an operating system is, what are the different kinds of operating systems we have, how does it operate and all. So before we start, in this chapter or in this concept we will be learning about the definition and the need for an operating system, and then the main functions of an operating system. First of all, before starting any concept, we have to understand what is the need of it, why do we require it, and what purposes does that serve to our technology or the device which we are using. So that's why we will understand what an operating system is initially and the need for an operating system. And then we will move on to the main functions of an operating system. What are the different functions that we have for an operating system, and the commonly used mechanisms for operating systems. The commonly used mechanisms inside an operating system are process management, memory management, file management, security, command interpretation module. When you see all of them, these are all the core functions of a computer. For a process to be managed, for a process to be performed, we require process management. Without a proper process management, our operating system or the system on which we were working wouldn't do the required justice. So, and then memory management. If you don't have proper memory management in your computer, then whatever task it's performing, it won't be able to perform it up to the mark, as well as it wouldn't be able to give you the 100% efficiency for that task. And then we have the file management. File management is what we use in our day-to-day life, and in all the computers or in our mobile phones we have the file managers. These file managers have various folders, the system files, as well as the files that we store as different directory names. Now what is happening here, in order to manage those files that are stored on the hard disk, we require a file management, and all these concepts are internally managed by the operating system, but we all think that it is all inside the computer they are being happening, or some other hallucination we might be having until now. But after listening to all the concepts related to operating system, you will exactly understand what does the CPU do and what are the sole functions of a CPU, what are the sole functions of an operating system, which concept or which mechanism inside the computer works in what way. That is what you will understand, and that is how you have to understand the concepts. And then security. Without security there would be no device would be able to perform or give the 100% to the task, because if we don't have the proper security, there would be so many attacks or data thefts happening inside the computer. So without security, no process management or any task cannot be completed up to the mark. And then command interpretation module. We were discussing about commands in the morning session and what is the use of it, or how is it different from the graphical user interface that we had seen in the morning. So when an operating system doesn't have a command graphical user interface, and they only want to settle down with the command line interpretation, then without this module you won't be able to send the tasks or set the commands that need to be performed by the computer. So graphical user interface is somewhat in the next level. Generally, whenever anybody can create their own operating system, or a community of people, they can create their own operating system. When they are creating in their own operating system, the first thing they have to do is, or they will be designing it in such a way that they will have the command line interface available, so that is actually the basic level of which, or the direct communication that we can have with the computer. So that is why we require command interpretation module. And then some commonly used operating system capability enhancement softwares. We will look into what are those commonly used operating system capability enhancement softwares, and then some popular operating systems. We will discuss how many different kinds of operating systems do we have. Is it only Windows, Linux, or is there any other kind of a operating system? How are they different from this? Why are there so many operating systems? We have to have all these kind of questions, and we have to be really enthusiastic when we discuss about operating systems, because when you don't understand or when you don't try to think about such things, everything will be very much plain or it would be very much static. So, let us move on to the definition of an operating system and the need for an operating system. OS is operating system, we all know that. Now, what is the definition of an operating system? It is an integrated set of programs that control the resources, CPU, memory, input output devices, etc. of the computer system. Now, I would like to explain one thing, or I would like to make one thing clear over here. From the starting onwards, we were only talking about the circuits or the transistors, vacuum tubes, the motherboard or the printed circuit boards, the PCBs. We were only talking about the hardware part more, and we were nowhere discussing about the programs. We were only mentioning that in order for a computer to perform a task, we need to give it some data, or we have to give it some instructions so that it will perform that task. But suppose yesterday I was talking to you about Windows MS Word file, like Microsoft Word file. Now, Microsoft Word is a application or a programming software, like you can edit documents or you can create documents with that. So, the program that is written for MS Word is something that is only related to that particular software. In order for that program to run or to perform its task, it requires some processing that needs to be happened in the CPU. Now, the CPU is all about instructions, and it's the CPU is made up of the hardware, right? So, in such a case, there should be some interface or there should be some software that interacts between the user and the hardware, in between the user and the hardware that is connected inside your computer. In between these two, there should be some kind of a interface that talks between these two and manages the overall operations of the task. For that, we have an integrated set of programs that control the resources. Whenever we talk about some technical terms, or whenever we talk about some parts inside the computer, we generally denote them as resources, because if you are given some assignment and you have to write down the questions and answers for that assignment, then what are the resources that you require? You require, first of all, you require a book in which you have to write, and a pen. These are the two resources you require, and maybe if you are provided the questions, then you will be requiring that question paper or whatever it is from which you will be writing down the answers. So, the resources over here are three. One is the question paper or the questions that are given to you for the assignment. Then the second one is a booklet or a book in which you have to write, an empty book in which you have to write the answers. The third one is a pen to write. So, these are the resources, minimum resources that are required for writing an assignment. The same way, the CPU or the computer, they also have to perform so many tasks, right? They are assigned so many tasks that needs to be done. And how will we perform those tasks? When we have to perform those tasks, there need to be resources required for performing the task. Based on the resources we have, we will be able to perform that level task. If it is a very high level task, then we require very much high level resources. When we are having only very few resources or very little standard or little capacity resources, then what happens? And you are trying to achieve a very high task, then that wouldn't be compatible, or it wouldn't perform the task to its best. So, always whenever you are trying to execute a task, you should always keep in mind the resources that are required. The same way, if you have this kind of an idea, you will understand that the integrated set of programs that control the resources. So, the operating system is all about programming. There are so many kinds of programs that are written, and there are so many algorithms inside your operating system that help you to manage the resources that we have inside the computer system. These operating system programs or algorithms that are designed in such a way that they give you the maximum output from these resources, right? So, that is why these operating system is the integrated set of programs that control the resources, the CPU, the memory, input output devices, etc. of the computer system, right? And then it provides users with an interface or virtual machine that is more convenient to use than the bare machine. We will look into virtual machines later. It is a little complicated as of now for you people, but just try to understand virtual machine is nothing but in an operating system. With the help of virtual machine, you will be able to install one more operating system. Suppose if you are using Windows as of now, inside the Windows, when you if you create a virtual machine or if you install this is a program, just a program, you can think about it. Virtual machine is just a program that you install into your computer on Windows. On that virtual machine, you can install any other operating system. So, you can use two different operating systems with the help of virtual, two or more, any number of operating systems, and it all again depends upon the resources. If you are having very high kind of high end resources for your computer, then you can go with multiple operating systems that will support your resources. Okay. And interface is the common thing that we were talking about, graphical user interface, GUI we call it. That is that helps in interacting the user with the hardware or the back end of the computer. Okay. So, the operating system, it provides its users with an interface or virtual machine that is more convenient to use than the bare machine. It is convenient to use than the bare machine. What do you mean by bare machine? Bare machine in the sense, if you just have the hardware and the programs that are directly need to be given as instructions by the user, then that is called a bare machine. Suppose even in today's world, when you want to get into the technicalities or core of the computer science, you can work on microprocessors or the devices that we have for microprocessors. There are different kinds of series of microprocessors. For suppose 8051 is one kind of a microprocessor, 8085 is one kind of like 8085 is again a microcontroller, I guess. So, 8051 is one kind of microprocessor. So, what happens over here is that microprocessor is built into the hardware, and a small rectangular kind of a box is available in the market or in the industry where you will do your practicals. So, that only is capable of performing a certain set of instructions, because it is the basic component or basic operation of a computer. If you have a microprocessor integrated into a small device and it is programmed in such a way that it can only perform little operations, because it does not have much hardware required, or it is only having very basic hardware, it is only able to perform little operations. For suppose if we want to add two numbers, then there will be some instructions that we have to type with the help of keyboard or keypad that is provided with the device. When we enter those instructions like add, subtract, then based on the instructions we are giving, inside there will be a circuit connected. That circuit will help us in performing the operation. Over here, what is happening? We don't have any user interface. We don't know where it is, like we don't have any symbols like plus, minus or anything visible in that kind of a device. Those kind of device, you can imagine them as bare machines. Bare machines are where you can only directly hard code them, in the sense you have to only directly give them commands, and you won't be able to see the interface, or you won't be able to see the options that you generally have in your Windows operating systems. So, these bare machines do not have any operating systems, they are directly programmed, and whenever you want to implement something in that machine, then you have to directly enter some instructions that are pre-programmed for that device. Whatever instructions that microprocessor is capable of, it will perform those operations based on that. The microprocessor, suppose it has 10 instructions like add, subtract, multiply, divide and all. It has a set of 10 instructions, let us say. Now, it can only perform those operations, and you will be only able to enter those operations and give the computer instructions based on those 10 operations. Other than that, the microprocessor that is a bare machine example won't be able to do any other task. Whereas our operating system is having even much more further resources, and there are so many other components that are connected to the computer, which help us with the help of operating system to achieve much more smoother and faster tasks. Okay. Now, there are two primary objectives of an operating system. They are making a computer system convenient to use. In the morning also we were discussing about the graphical user interface. With the help of graphical user interface, what did I tell you? It helps the user and it helps even more number of users to understand the computer and freely or conveniently operate the system. The same way, this operating system also is making it possible for us in achieving that goal. Okay. Next, managing the resources of computer system. The first one is not true for all the operating systems, because if you use a Unix operating system or the basic Linux kind of an operating system, they don't have any kind of an interface. All that you can do is you have to manually type in commands. Even if you want to open a folder, you have to use a command and the folder name to find out which folder you have to open, or in order to open that folder you have to enter some commands. Over there you don't have anything like our Windows operating system, like you can go into the computer and search for your directory. Inside the directory, your folder files you cannot find directly manually. There are such kind of operating systems also. So if you are having an user interface and also it is very much convenient to use, then the first thing will do. But when it's compared to the bare machine, even those basic Unix and Linux operating systems, they are also providing a certain set of commands with the operating system that will help us to achieve tasks better than the bare machine, faster, conveniently than the bare machine. So when you consider your Windows operating system, the first point will be like 100%, more than 100% it will be achieving this task or this point, because in the Windows you have everything in graphical way and you will be able to see everything with the graphical icons. Whereas with the other basics of Linux and Unix systems, you have programmed operating system, but you need to use commands. The recent versions and some kind of Linux flavors that we have in today's world, they are also providing us the graphical user interface. Now, why was I just trying to differentiate between these two is that the first thing varies from operating system to operating system. In Mac you have one kind of an UI or one kind of a user interface. In the Windows you have another kind of an interface, and in Linux, different flavors of Linux have different kinds of user interfaces. So for each and every operating system, the first point is varying, but it is somewhat achieving to a certain level, while the second point is the most important objective for an operating system, where managing the resources of a computer system. Any operating system, it has to and it will manage the resources of a computer system. The main objective and the sole purpose of an operating system would be to manage the resources of a computer system. You have to understand this, okay? And then we will see the logical architecture of a computer system now. What is the logical architecture of a computer system? The operating system layer hides the details of the hardware from the programmer and provides the programmer with convenient interface for using the system. That is what we were discussing till now, right? So based on the discussion we had until now, if you read this, it will be very clear for you, where it's showing that the operating system layer hides the details of the hardware from the programmer or the user. You can call any one of them, user or a programmer, you can interchangeably use over here, and provides the programmer with convenient interface for using the system. If you are only able to, the internal components of your computer are all based upon your hardware, right? You only connect the hardware components, and then that is how your motherboard looks like. Inside the motherboard, you are programming something, or you are inputting some programs in order to get an user interface from which we are able to operate the hardware and perform the task based on the hardware, okay? So this operating system is playing the most crucial role here in order to perform that task for us. Now, just don't look at this diagram as of now, but just think about your computer. If it is a laptop, just look at a laptop, or if it is a personal computer or a desktop computer, just look at it. Just look at the CPU cabinet or at your laptop where you have the hardware. Now in the hardware, just try to imagine what is the lowest or what is the deepest point which you know inside the computer, that is your hardware, right. On the top of hardware, what do you have? What do you have on the top of hardware? You have the operating system. In the sense, you have your laptop, right. Your laptop internally, it's all about hardware. Your motherboard and all are internally connected inside your computer. Now on the monitor screen, what do you see? You see the operating system. Operating system has the software that connects the hardware to the user, okay. And then inside the operating system, what do you have? You have installed your Microsoft Teams, or otherwise whatever programs or tasks that you want to perform, those applications or programs you will be installing on that. So the base for us is hardware. On the hardware, we are installing an operating system, and on the operating system we are installing whatever desirable applications we want. Your browser or whatever application you are using, you will be able to understand them very easily, because you all are installing so many applications every day and you are using them frequently. So all the applications that you are using come at this level, and on the top of that, who is the one who is using? We are the ones who are using those Microsoft Teams or Windows or Microsoft Teams or MS Office or browsers, whatever it is, all the programs or applications that we installed are used by us. So finally it is the user at the top point, and at the most lowest or the bottom point we have the computer hardware. In between the user and the computer hardware, we have two more other components, that is operating system and the other system softwares or the programs that we install and run on these computers. So this is how you have to think about logically about an operating system, where if someone asks you, or if you wonder anytime, like where is the operating system in my computer, or where does it lie in the components, because if you see the motherboard, you wouldn't be able to see that. If you just check on the monitor, it's only visible as a screen in which you are able to interact with it and you are able to install applications. But where is this program stored, or where is this operating system lying? If you have that question, then this picture would give you the best answer for that. Initially, whenever, if you are suppose creating your own computer, then first of all, what will you do? You will get all the components, hardware components that are required, you will connect all of them, and then after you have connected the components, you will be providing it some power supply. Whenever you are providing the power, is there any program installed in it, or is there any other instruction that is assigned to that hardware? No, it's only just hardware, empty hardware that we have only connected and provide the power supply. To this bare hardware, we need to provide some software or instructions that will help the user, or that will help us to interact or understand the hardware. We have to make the hardware work, right? We connected all the hardware. Now the hardware should work. How will the hardware work? Without programming it or without giving it any instruction, that hardware won't work, and it would be of no use for us. In order for that hardware components and the connected circuits to work, we have to program it and make it lively, so that it will help us in making the operations and perform the tasks. On the top of hardware, we have the operating systems now. So that is why we installed operating systems. When we installed operating systems, is it sufficient? No, because we are only providing a medium between the hardware and the user with the help of operating systems. That will only help us to interact between the hardware and the user. But interaction is not all that we want, right? In the interaction, we have to have some data that needs to be interacted. What is the data? The programs are your data. So the hardware is on the other side, the users are on this side. Now in between, we have the operating system. On the operating system, if you put something, if you put some data, or if you load some programs, only then there would be some task that will be performed, and there will be some operation that is happening from inside the hardware. Now for that operation to be performed, you have to perform some, or you have to assign some tasks to the operating system. So the user from this side, he will be assigning some tasks to the operating system, and this operating system in between, it will further take the tasks and make it performed in the hardware. This is how it flows. Okay, that is how the sequence is. The users on this side, he will be installing some programs, and these programs are installed on the operating system. This operating system in turn talks with the computer hardware, and it allows, or it tells the computer hardware, or it makes the computer hardware perform the task in a desirable way. That is the reason we have this point over here, managing the resources of a computer system. It is very important because it is the operating system is the one which is managing the resources of the computer system. What are the resources of your computer system? Your CPU, your input output devices, etc., etc. What are all those? They are all the hardware, the computer components that are inside your computer. Now all these are managed by your operating system, and how efficiently you manage, it all depends upon the operating system you use. So the programs and the instructions you put inside the operating system, the algorithms that you choose, it all depends upon that when it comes to the efficiency of a computer hardware. Even though you might have very good computer hardware, you have bought in so much efficient or costly computer hardware with high specifications, but if you put a very bad OS or a very inefficient algorithm operating system on that computer hardware, that wouldn't be able to give you the best resource, best output for you. So in order to have a very good efficient output or performance in your computer, you should always think about both of them, the software as well as the hardware. Both of them go hand in hand. Without one, the other would definitely not be up to the mark. Okay. So we all understood now the logical architecture of a computer system. Now you will be able to tell anyone what is an operating system, where does it lie, what does it do. All this we have a little idea. Okay. Next, what are the main functions of the operating system? That is what we were just seeing in the previous slide, where we had that the points that we will be learning in this chapter. The same thing come over here. Anyway, over there I gave a little introduction to you. We will be seeing each and every one of them one after the other. Okay. So the main functions of an operating system are process management. What does the process management mean? Until now we were only talking about that. If the process management, you can understand from this. Okay. What are processes that you have to perform at the hardware level? Where are we performing this processes? In the central processing unit. Where is the central processing unit? The central processing unit is fixed, or it is available in the computer hardware. Now in order to perform these operations over here, we need to have some tasks. From where will we get the tasks? We will get the task from the user in the form of computer system software or application programs. Application programs in the sense your MS Office or your browser or your music player, whatever it is, all of them come under your application softwares. Whatever tools or softwares that you load onto your computer system, they are all application softwares, and your system software is something that is related to your system. Okay. Now the user gives a task or a process to the computer hardware from this system software or application programs through the operating systems. That is what you have to understand. When the user is giving some task or a process to the computer hardware from this system software or application program with the help of operating system, now the whole responsibility of the process is put upon the operating system by the user. The user, what he does is, he selects some program and he wants to perform a task or a process in this program. Now what he will do, he will simply assign that task or program to the operating system. He says that, or he or she, they say that, you, the operating system, you please take care of it, I want this process to be done. Now the whole responsibility of the task is upon the operating system. Now if the operating system is not capable of, if it's incapable of doing such things, then definitely that process wouldn't be a success, or it wouldn't be up to the mark. So that is why the most important part of an operating system would be managing the process, that is process management. If the operating system knows it very well, how to manage the process, how to process multiple tasks at a time, how to efficiently complete the task that is given by the user through the system software or application programs, then it will be able to talk with the computer hardware and manage things efficiently and give the output back. That is the importance of process management. And process management has several techniques and so many algorithms that are created long back in the 1980s, 1970s, 80s time, and they are very efficient and they are highly capable of performing various powerful tasks. We will see all of them one by one, but after that we have memory management. When somebody talks about memory management or when you see memory management anywhere, the first thing that you have to remember is RAM or the primary storage. We were talking about a block diagram yesterday, the whole day we were only talking about the block diagram because that is the most important and the core part of your computer. In that block diagram, what did you find? You had the central processing unit at the bottom and that is connected to your primary memory or the primary storage. What does the primary storage help you in? The primary storage helps you to manage tasks efficiently and also like line up different processes one after the other or at a time, and it will help all the tasks being managed efficiently and process them to get the required output. Without the memory management, if we don't have a proper memory or if we don't have the proper RAM inside your computer and if it's not being managed properly, then the tasks that are assigned by the user to the operating system to be performed, those tasks wouldn't be efficiently or smoothly performed. There will be lot of hanging issues that happen in your computer sometimes or on some devices which use a normal software which isn't that efficient. Then you have so many crashes that happen in your applications or there are so many hanging issues happening. All of that is just because if the operating system or the RAM is incapable of doing or managing all those tasks, then those you will get so many troubles or issues with while using the computer. All of them come under this memory management. Okay. Next, file management. Whenever you are loading or storing so many files inside your computer, what happens? After some time when you wanted to retrieve the data or when you wanted to find some data where you have stored inside the directories, if you don't have a proper file management and if the operating system is not able to understand or if it doesn't have a proper data of where your file is stored, then whenever you are trying to find that file, it becomes very difficult for the user to locate where that file is, because if the operating system itself doesn't know where it's stored or where it's saved, if it forgets or if it is not visible to the user or if the user is not able to retrieve it back, then there is no use of storing the data into the file, into the storage, as well as using such devices. So file management is one more crucial place which is very important for an operating system. Then we have the security. What do you mean by security? We were previously discussing about the security, where suppose you have a very good efficient process management algorithm, you have very good RAM management or the memory primary storage management and also your file management. Your operating system is running really well, smoothly. Now, not all users use the computer for normal general purpose or for storing the normal files or anything, but there are so many organizations, so many other people who have sensitive information on their computers, as well as very much organization related data available on their computers. Now, if the operating system is not able to provide the security that is required for the data which is stored in the operating system, then nobody would choose that kind of an operating system. Suppose if Windows doesn't provide us any security for the computer or the data that is stored in through the operating system, then nobody would be using Windows today, because there will be anybody who could enter into your account, enter into your system through different ways without security. It is just like without any lock to your house. If there is no kind of lock or if there is no door for your home and you are living there in that house for a while, it is the same way with an operating system without security. Okay. So we will discuss about security in detail later, where you will have much more exposure about what kind of security we can have and in what organization or in which kind of a system we need to have what kind of security. We will see all of that. And command interpretation. We previously discussed about command interpretation, right? If you don't have a graphical user interface, or if the system is not supporting graphical user interface with very low resources that your system has, then command interpretation is the basic or the default way through which you can access your operating system and the files in your operating system. Okay. Next, parameters for measuring system performance. Now, generally everybody talks about the performance of systems or the efficiency of the system, but is there any other way, or are there any parameters that we have to consider while measuring the efficiency of the system? Yes, we do have them. The first thing in that is throughput. What do you mean by throughput? Amount of work that a system is able to do per unit time. You consider or you calculate the throughput based on the amount of work that the system is able to do per unit time. In a particular time or in this particular minute, how much work is the system being able to do? Suppose you have 3 systems and we are comparing the throughput for 3 of them. Now, we understood what throughput is. Now, when we are trying to compare the throughput of these 3 systems, we assign the same task to all the 3 systems, the same software we opened, we try to enter something and we try to process that data. Suppose this is the task. Now, each system has its own operating system, it has its own resources, based on that it would function. So, the first system might only be able to complete 50% of the task, second one 30% and the third one 90%. Now, which system is more efficient when you look in terms of throughput? The system C is having highest efficiency over here, or it is able to do 90% of the task in the first 1 minute. So, that is how you calculate the throughput, amount of work that the system is able to do per unit time. Okay. Next, turnaround time. What do you mean by turnaround time? Interval from the time of submission of a job to the system for processing to the time of completion of the job. Turnaround time, just try to remember these terms: throughput, turnaround time. What do you mean by turnaround time? Interval from the time of submission of a job to the system for processing to the time of completion of the job. Now, the user, what we were discussing in this diagram, the user is assigning the task to the operating system with the help of these system programs or system softwares, application programs, and the operating system in turn is taking the help of hardware, or it's assigning the task to the hardware and it's making the computer hardware do them. Now, turnaround time is something where it starts when the user assigns a task with the help through these application programs to the operating system, and the operating system going to the computer hardware, it's getting the task done and it's giving the output back, the processed output back to the user. The time taken from the user assigning the task to the operating system and the process being done and it's getting back to the user, that whole time, the whole duration, whatever has happened from here to here and back to the user, that is known as turnaround time. Okay. Now, once you read this, you will understand that turnaround time is the interval from the time of submission of a job or a process, you can call, to the system for processing to the time of completion of the job. Okay. Interval from the time of submission of a job to the system for processing to the time of completion of the job. Divide it into 2 and you will understand what it is. Then we have the response time. What do you mean by response time? Interval from the time of submission of a job to the system for processing to the time the first response for the job is produced by the system. This is the response time. Suppose we will take the MS Word example itself. When you open the Microsoft Word, when you double click on the icon, first it sends a signal or it starts the process. What is the first process that it will start? It has to open that application and whatever resources are required, whatever additional programs that need to be loaded by the application, so that it will give you that Word document open. For that, when you double click on it, the user is double clicking on the application program here, and where is he doing? He is doing in the operating system. So, the interval from the time of submission of a job to the system, we are submitting a job by double clicking. That is the job we are doing over here. That is the submission of the job. When we double click, what should it do? It should open the system, or it should open that program for us, right? For processing to the time the first response for the job is produced by the system. When you double click on it, it might first whenever you are double clicking on a Microsoft Word, what is the first thing that you see? You will see a blue box with the text written Microsoft Word. So that is the first response that you got when you double clicked on the application program. So that time where the system responded with that blue box with Microsoft written, that particular time, from the time when you double clicked on the Microsoft Word icon, is known as response time. Response time is the interval from the time of submission of a job to the system for processing to the time of the first response for the job is produced by the system. Whatever is the first response that you got back as a user from the operating system for that particular application, that is known as the response time. Okay. And then process management. So what did we see? We saw the parameters for measuring the system performance. In order to find the system performance, in order to calculate the system performance, what are the things that you require? You require throughput, turnaround time, response time. So now you understood well. I hope you understood well what do you mean by throughput, turnaround time and response time. And also what all did we see? What are the main functions of an operating system? Until now you might be wondering, or you might be having some other answers for the various functions of an operating system, but from now onwards, if someone asks, or if you have to connect this concept to something else, just try to understand that the main functions of an operating system are process management, memory management, file management, security and command interpretation. Okay. And this is how the logical architecture is. Where is the system hardware or the computer hardware, and where is the user? What are the things that we have in between? And this is the definition of an operating system. What is an operating system? What do you mean by resources of a computer system? And what are the objectives that the operating system have to perform? So this is all what we have discussed today, right? Make sure you have a very clear understanding about all this, because we are slowly going into the core concepts of the computer system, and if you make sure that you understood these concepts clearly and have an exposure about it, then the coming concepts will become very easy for you, and you will be able to have a very clear understanding on the computer system. Okay. So that's all for today. We'll meet in the next session. Thank you.